Today, as promised, I have my guest back, my special guest husband, Kenneth H. Moss Jr. is with me today. As I promised last week that he would be here, and we are glad that he is here on our special edition of Love is Patient. It is Valentine's Day weekend, and we're going to be talking about love. As we talked about it last week, love in a marriage relationship. We like to extend love as patient out to all types of different relationships. But for the month of February, we will be talking about love in marriage, marital relationship. What is love? Last week we discussed a little about what love is not, and we got some wonderful nuggets out of that. I just so enjoyed my husband's perspective, bringing some things to light that I had never thought about. That's the male perspective. That is the fact that two is better than one. It's proof that two is better than one. So we are thankful and we're encouraged today for another opportunity to get that male perspective. That perspective that it might not complete everything, but it makes it look and feel fuller, the meaning of what we're trying to extract from our subject today. It certainly makes it fuller. So welcome back.
Glad to be back. I appreciate you allowing me to come and share.
February, the month of love.
It is
So
the love
we
month,
are-
so that's what they're saying. So people looking forward to this weekend. Hopefully you in one way or another will enjoy what we're sharing on today. Should be nice.
Absolutely. So we are again in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter.
Love it.
Love chapter.
We used to quote it every Sunday.
Wow.
Every Sunday we used to quote this. It was a tabernacle creed is what my father called it. We would recite it every day. Prayer Tabernacle Church of Love. We nothing else. We learn about prayer and love every single Sunday. We started our services off 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 1 through 13.
Love.
Yes.
Church of love.
Yes.
That's what we get
Because God
out
is love.
of the church of love.
Yes.
So we thank God for that chapter, how it starts out, just emphasizing if you have anything else, you should have love. You're like a sounding brass, a tinkling cymbal if you don't have it. You could have faith. You could give away all that you have. And if you don't have love, you've not gained anything. So we thank God for that chapter, how it starts out, and then it goes into what love is not. And that's what we talked about last week, what love is not. And this week we're going to go right into what love is. And certainly the chapter talks about how love is it always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes and preserves. And the last thing is that it never fails.
Mm.
So we're going to go into a discussion about how love is patient.
Mhm.
And in being patient and in waiting and enduring through different things, we're going to talk about managing three things: managing pace, managing progress, and managing your passion. Okay, the three P's that we're going to consider today that align with patience. One thing that I did study about patience that sticks out is in the Hebrew context, it means to abide under.
To abide under.
To abide
Ooh.
under.
I'm blessed already.
My God, to abide under. In the marriage covenant, you're abiding under that
One
grace,
to the other. Husband to the wife, wife to the husband.
Yes.
Which traditionally we just taught women submit. But Jesus makes it very clear that woman submitting to the husband is the husband being able to submit to the wife in both ways.
Good.
This exists.
Absolutely. So we're abiding under that covenant in grace.
In grace, truly.
All right. And it takes some grace to do just what you said, for you to submit to me sometimes. Whoa.
I am sitting here
Yes.
waiting for my turn to speak as
Yes.
I submit in silence.
So let's talk a little bit about patience, abiding under the covenant of marriage, that commitment of marriage. Then you have also the idea of abiding under something that's not so pleasant. Sometimes we're suffering. Sometimes you're suffering one with another or one because of something that your spouse has done that you don't agree with or that is hurtful or conflicting. And along with suffering, you have to endure. And along with enduring, it's that word called wait, which we don't like to do.
Mhm.
So that is all a part of patience. And what I liked about what we were talking about earlier is that it means to courageously endure. Courageous endurance. That's what patience is all about. It's not about wimpishly submitting to somebody's will that you don't understand and that you're hurt under, but it's courageous endurance. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think a
Courageous
challenge in
endurance.
and of itself, the concept submission, in many ways suggests that a woman or a man is docile, or they're weak, or frail, or they're being manipulated, or in one way or another, they're not standing up for themselves. But the reality is, love is just the opposite. There has to be a willingness to be courageous enough and have courage and be able to endure the ability to say, I'm going to take a lower seat.
Mhm.
I'm going to take a risk. And it's amazing because if you consider in football, which I love, Tom Brady, his success was willing to submit to a coach, a new system, go into a new area. And it's easy for everyone to say or suggest, oh, Tom Brady went because he's going to win the championship. When the reality is like, no, he had to courageously endure what? A new system, a new area, new expectations, another level of criticism. He had to relinquish some of his opinions and ways that he thought would work. And guess what? The same way he had to do that, the coach had to submit to his style of being a
Good.
quarterback.
That's
So it is a mutual, and it's amazing that we can see the love of sports and we can appreciate the champion that Tom Brady is
Mhm.
without acknowledging his love for football. It is his love for football that made him courageously endure. Like, oh goodness, yeah, man, through the season it looked like they weren't going to win. Now, all of us can see it in sports, but we lack that same empathy when it comes to relationships with humans. It amazed me the ease with which everyone can forgive everything about the receiver Brown and Anthony Brown being on the team and what he had to do. But guess what? He had to, and they talked about the championship, how Tom Brady had Anthony Brown, live in his house because he was so risky. There were so many problems with him on so many teams. He had a short leash, as a coach said, but he walked his team into this love affair for football, knowing I'm going to have to live in Tom Brady's house. Tom Brady's going to have to open my house till you live with me. Why? And it makes sense for everyone to embrace that kind of sports, but for someone to leave their apartment, leave their family, and come and submit to another person, I'm not going to lose my identity. For relationships, for marriage in particular, people don't have that honor. Say, no, I'm not going to, no. You see it for sports, you can honor it for sports. Relationships, it's amazing quickly people don't see the courage in submitting one to another, being able to come underneath.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example, and I'm sure it will, reach the hearts of all the sports lovers out there as we're just coming out of the Super Bowl. So that's a fantastic example about courageous love. Let's talk a little bit about the patience that we've endured.
Okay.
Some of the examples that the early parts of our marriage of enduring patiently.
Oh goodness. The flip side was, how can I, Kenneth Mose Jr., be married to a woman that makes more money than me, that is stronger with her career, and realistically, you're going to have to submit your opinion and everything you know about your father as a provider and making the money he made, and say, wow, I have to now endure courageously endure, if you would. Can I submit a woman that makes more than me? Can I love and honor someone that I know significantly makes more money than me? And and still love her and honor her, and not in one another try to find a way to take from you or reduce who you are as a woman because of what I'm not making or I don't know or what I don't have. Like that for me was, do you love her enough to celebrate her? Can you endure a wife courageously that you're gonna get married and be single? You're gonna be, not be married and be alone. Like, yeah, oh no, you married me, but I travel. Well, I'm not gonna be here. I'm a quality engineer and I have plants throughout the country. So I have to go to Florida, I have to go to Pennsylvania. I'm in South Carolina at Aiken. I have to submit all of my concepts of what I thought marriage would be, starting out blissfully and having my wife here serving to me, where I'm saying, "You're leaving again? Like, I got to go to another plant." And courageously endure. Whoa, this is my mother ain't leave. This is not. My mother was always home. Like, how are you? Like, where are you going? Like, no, that's not our reality. That's not our marriage. And if I love you, I can't just love the domesticated you. I have to love the engineer. I have to love the career side of you. I have to love the successful businesswoman that you are.
So on the flip side of that, from my vantage point, um, I think the courageous love part of our intimacy of our marriage was we knew we should be together. And despite our positioning at that time, we were sure that things were going to balance out and to work out some kind of way.
Oh, I knew that.
We knew it was going to work
Listen.
out some kind of way. I mean, from my vantage point, I was well established in my career as an engineer. I recently relocated to Connecticut, so that meant I left my family, my support system, all in Pittsburgh, and came here and was willing to marry you. And
Willing and excited.
On the outset, it seemed like an almost impossible situation as I was coming into such a well-known family and almost felt like royalty to me marrying in. So we had that part that I had to deal with as well. Understanding that I came from a home where I was the only child and that I was marrying into a family that was very well known and prominent and very busy. I lived a very simple life. I was raised in a very simple home, simple life, very slow, cultured family experience. Me and my mom, it was just us. And then to come into this family that
Rambunctious family.
that was very
Loud.
very busy,
Busy
somewhat
was kind.
loud, very poised, and there were a lot of differences. Celebrations were different, traditions were different. All of these things were different, and this is what I was marrying into, as my family was 500 miles away. So this was a big leap for me. And the differences began to illuminate as we got married.
Oh, that's a nice
Because,
one. Yes.
I did come from Norwalk in a very lovely,
Suburb.
no, it wasn't not the suburb, but
Compared
it
to
was a
everywhere.
very lovely apartment
Mhm.
that I could afford. But now that I'm marrying a student, I was
Down.
marrying,
She married
excuse
down.
me, I was marrying a student. I was marrying a Yale graduate student. So we began to find out how we had to balance this out. Okay, so we took an apartment that he could afford because in his belief structure, he believed that he should have an apartment that would be affordable if I were to lose my job. He could be able to afford that. So that is what I agreed to. I agreed to be in a living situation that actually he could afford and that we both could build there and make this our home and start there and then build from there. we chose that as our foundation from which to build. So that was a lot. That was courageous on both parts. Courageous of me to agree to this. We talked about his belief structure, what he believed in, what he was taught, what he truly believed what a man and a husband should do. So I succumbed to that. I agreed to that, as well as you heard his testimony about, oh my God, this woman is in corporate. She's traveling. She's in not just the infancy of her career, but she's made a move, and this is a prestigious job that, she not loves, but this is her career choice for now. And then we'll get into more of the career changes as we progress through our discussion. But it was a courageous move on both of our parts to make this commitment for love, to balance out our careers, courageously loving each other, and to balance that out. So we're going to move more into the nitty-gritty, the pace, managing progress, and managing passion. All right, so we're going to start with pace. We're going to talk about speed, the rate at which somebody moves, a person's energy, their movement, their stride. Okay, my stride is very different than my husband's stride. Absolutely different. But as we, I guess, branched into careers, let's discuss careers. We kind of laid the foundation of where we were when we got married, so we'll just take it from there. On my job, I did a lot of traveling, lots of hours in the beginning parts of our marriage, and he had mentioned that, wow, this was a reality that he didn't really realize, on the onset. Wow, she has a job. This job equates to hours away from me. So in the idea of pacing, we chose for me to kind of ramp my career down. I actually had a passion and a desire to get out of engineering, which we had talked about before we were married, and go into education. So this was talked about and discussed, and we formulated a strategy on how I would segue into education. So my pacing was in ramping down. How about yours? Your pacing?
It was an adjustment there. I see it happening both ways in the career. You were ramping down, and I'm trying to find a way in my own life to kind of ramp up. Like, how do I step up to the demand, the requirements of being married, the expectations of father, now husband, and new children coming, and what does that look like? And then being able to manage, being able to provide, being able to navigate my love to the accountability financially.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to love someone and understand the financial burden? And that in and of itself put a demand on me to find more resources, eventually pushed me out of school. I walked away from school, went back to Deloitte and Touche. They're going to get where I was looking at going hired right out of college. And I realized then, like, I have to step up as you're winding and adjusting your pace down for what you want in life, what you're going to be, as well as a child that's on its way. I was saying, you both can't wind down. Your pace you have to pick up. And that's kind of one of the adjustments that I would suggest to anyone, especially relationships. Knowing who has the speed, the tempo, and meeting each other at that healthy medium. Knowing, because you both can't be ramping up. It's just a dangerous way to live and out. But neither can you have great divide or gap between what you're trying to accomplish, or that's how the enemy gets in that space. So while you were ramping down, I was picking up financially. I was going after my career, went into Deloitte and Touche, and finally landed a job there at Pepperidge Farm, your old company, and world headquarters, lead tax analyst, and handling the audits there. And that helped and adjusted my life in a way, career-wise, that really grounded me, where you were kind of tapering down into going to school and going into another career and becoming a mother.
Yes. Most of the ramping down had to do with the fact that we wanted to start our family right away. So 6 months into our marriage, I was pregnant with our first son.
Amazing son, Kevin the third.
Yes. And along with that, we decided to blend our families. So we actually had Dominique to come and live with us, and we instantly had a blended family. And then I was pregnant with Kenneth the third, so almost into the door, we had 2 children.
Yeah.
Within the first year and a half, we had 2 children. So I mean, the ramp down was kind of quick,
Yeah.
and as well as the ramp up.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And then an adjustment for me, because I had to ramp down from being a college student and to be a father.
right.
And as I slowed down into parenting, that grounded me and made me ready for marriage. You know, all of it was connected. I couldn't stay at that space, in the same space of single college Morehouse man in the AUC down in Atlanta, and come back home and find a wife. I came back into okay, get back into prayer, get back into covenant, get back into ministry, get into your assignment. You know, as you start to love your daughter, it kind of grounded me into relationship choices. I can't do it. I cannot live like this. I don't want my wife or my daughter to see this level of lifestyle. I need something settled. Ooh, I can't have that ramped up. I have to change my pace. It helped out.
Very quickly, I know we mentioned it last week, but the pace of our movements. I'm a more settled type of calculated type of person, whereas you are more driven, upbeat, aggressive type of nature. And we mentioned last week, and I think it's important to mention as we're talking about pace, to mention the balance in that.
It's a healthy balance, but you know what's amazing? What has helped me to survive pastoring and in this season of just ministry, or the tone of being a man, a lot of it in marriage. Understanding that I had to slow down in order to properly love and our marriage, our covenant. So too is the case in this season. I mean, ramping down, pacing yourself in a marital relationship is all about knowing seasons and times. And like right now, being the alpha male raised, I mean, I went from Bishop Moles to Dr. Morrow, Dr. Parker, to everything I learned at New Birth under Bishop Long. I come back to a strong CPA, and then Wilson found great refuge between Bishop T.D. Jakes and all these alpha males. And now I'm in a culture that is extremely against that whole male presence, male dominance, male leading, male like, oh wow, like, oh, that pace is not working. And you have just, or what you think is normative for you becomes offensive. So too is in marriage. Like, you don't know the pace. You can't understand the tempo of your spouse. As I'm where I am as a man, that's relationships we've always talked about it, where you can see the woman is the alpha female and like is running like loops around the husband. And I'm saying, going, I can't believe how docile this guy looks, lost in it. And the reality is like, no, it works for their marriage. She has that pace and he's kind of labeled reserved, and it balances the marriage. And that's a very good portion of understanding pace and seasons and how it works.
Absolutely. And I know it's a matter of patience. How to mastering the pace is certainly a matter of patience. As you just mentioned, you have to know the pace of your spouse, you know, the temperament of your spouse, and know how that has to balance out. Too fast is bad. Too slow is bad. You know, what is the pacing? What is the balance? How do we work together to make this process work?
Mm-hmm.
So that
Which is different than being single. That's a
Absolutely.
very different
You're
world.
concerned about you.
You're concerned about you. And I think that's one of the things. I'm not gonna change. I'm not getting a marriage. I'm not getting a marriage and let it change me. Then don't get married. You know, if
You're
you're
gonna
walking
change.
in the door saying that I'm not letting anyone change me, you have to love me for who I am. That is love, and that's I think it's like telling God, take me as I am, and God's like, no, 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 I'll love you where
Told
you
you.
are, but you
Yeah.
can't stay that way.
Right.
And I think marriages is just like it's like God's love for us as believers. Like He'll embrace us wherever we are, and His grace is sufficient. But there has to be an adjustment and coming up and picking up of things that you have to adjust. It's the same way in marriage.
Absolutely. I think it's a great thing to be in a position where you can value the balance. You know, I value sometimes it's not time, as we talked about last week, it's not time to calculate and muddle around and make sure everything is going to work out perfectly. It's time to move, and that's something that I have gotten from our relationship. You know, being the move.
That's not, it's like telling God, take me as I am. And God's like, no, 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 I'll love you where you are, but you can't stay that way.
Right.
And I think in marriages, it's just like, it's like God's love for us as believers. Like He'll embrace us wherever we are. And His grace is sufficient, but there has to be an adjustment and a coming up and picking up things that you have to adjust. It's the same marriage.
Absolutely. I think it's a great thing to be in a position where you can value the balance. You know, I value sometimes it's not time, as we talked about last week, it's not time to calculate and muddle around and make sure everything is going to work out perfectly. It's time to move, and that's something that I have gotten from our relationship. You know, being the mover and shaker that you are, and the upbeat person and the person that is driven. That has a portion of that has rubbed off on me, and I think I'm the better for it. So managing and mastering your pace has to do with valuing the other person's ability to rub off on you and to balance you out.
And to not just rub off, to submit to and acknowledge my peace, other whatever, how much of an alpha male or driven I am, a driven individual without the ability to put the brakes has been extremely damaging in our marriage, in my choices throughout life. Learning that, hey, the Lord put you with her for a reason. The Lord put you with him for a reason, and to ignore the significance of the pace. And I can't do that. I have to stay. I got to be true to me. Like, okay, true to you is damaging to your future, and getting to your passion because you're really out of pocket because everything cannot drive this fast. It can't remain. Some stuff has to be slow. Sometimes they pause. Unfortunately, as much as I hate it, stuff must absolutely just stop in order for you to make season and being appropriate. You have to stop completely. Like, what? Just be still and know that I'm God. And that in many ways is very absent in many relationships. Being able to just stop. To Selah. No, nothing's bad. We're not leaving. Nothing's breaking up. I don't hate you. You don't hate me. But in this season, let's just stop. Let's slow down and bring this moment to pause.
And that's the concept of hibernation that we talked about in a season where things are just happening too fast. It's too cold out there to even survive. It's time to hibernate, and just lay back, lay low for a little while, reconnect, collect yourself, and then proceed. So that leads us right into our next point, which is progress. After you managing your pace, it leads to progress. And we think about the things that have been very progressive in our relationship. Since we got married, we were able to establish our careers. I made the switch from engineering to education. Wasn't that easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. That was a whole process in and of itself. And in the meantime, we weren't just working on one thing at a time. So in the meantime, as I was doing my transition to education, from engineering to education, we also had more children in the meantime. So by that time, by 2006, we had a full house for children. By the time we made that transition, then we're well into parenting, well into just we had the children and they were toddlers. We're well into parenting with all the activities and everything that comes with nurturing and building character and introducing children to different things just to find out, what makes them tick, what they were going to be progressing in and what they were going to be good at, identifying schools for each one of them and such. So along with that, the career changes, building the family. Here I have a husband that is this high-powered alpha male that has aspirations as well. So why don't you talk about some of the things that you progressed in individually, and then we'll talk about some things that we did collectively.
Securing employment, establishing a national presence as a preacher, churches and ministries that I thought I would be preaching in my 50s, 45 and 50. I was actually had already been there, done that. I'm in my 35. I've left corporate America. I'm full-time in ministry, full-time running my own business. I've made more money in a weekend than I've in a year. Launching into another area and endeavor, building tremendous relationships with children, with you, and with my father, reconnecting in so many ways with him and vision, creating a brand new dynamic, an understanding of who I was in ministry as a husband, as a father, as a businessman, all of which, I never thought I would have had that level of insight and growth individually within myself. And I'm not even 35. It was a huge adjustment in mental season. Tremendous growth as well.
So the progress, we talked about some individual things that we were able to do. What about collectively? What are some things that we did collectively besides the children? Children were a big part. The family was a big part. I mean, that was one of the main purposes of why we got married. We both wanted to build this family. So I think that's one of the greatest achievements of our marriage is building this family.
I think for me, family, yes, that was essential. I dare to say one of the major things that I thought was positive and that we together is it was not an image. Was nothing fake about it. Was when you came to 851 Central Ave, you walked into a loving house with a couple that had no problem making it very clear between what Bishop Moles and Lady Moles had as it relates to success and finances and resources, and where we were, and had no problem letting it be known we have one new vehicle, minivan, coming together, doing it as a team. How we were you walked it, you saw the vision for it. I was able to implement and make it happen with the support of all the church and ministry and volunteers and Little Ty, Richard Gage, others that we helped us out. We were able to really build a home that became one of the greatest things, a youth house, which our love became and our marriage became a place of refuge. An example for many to come in, and oh my goodness, 35, you couldn't tell anything. We were successful on so many levels of where our marriage had grown and what was going on. And there I was, 35, a little over, and we preached at Mega Fest. We have already established our name nationally, and all of it. Wrote a book, and all of this. That came a little after. Yeah, we were almost at that point. We were about to get into a book, and we were ready to really just. Oh my goodness, the world was everything. That was 35. Yeah, it was a little before I preached for Jake's, but I'd already started traveling full time. I'd already left out and was doing all types of dates, had established ourselves in our marriage. We had our family calls going out on holiday seasons. I was coaching my sons. We maintained that. You were the team mom. We were working together, coaching the kids, and you're doing the book for them. You had a job. I was working. You were in your career. I was fully in ministry. And it was just a great level of progress, something that we had achieved together without either one giving up their path for life, for love, and for family. It was still there. Really, really great.
Talk a little bit about pushing the pace and how that might create problems.
Wow.
The pacing, pushing the pace. I think this is a good time to bring that up as we have covered pace and we're talking about progress. That might be a good place.
I think the push danger. Let's get that. Danger of the push is the outside. It came from outside involvement, outside opinions, outside expectations of what we had. I remember the day like yesterday when our house got shut down from people coming and everyone wanted to see no one around us except you and the kid. Oh no, there's too much traffic. They need, and I remember they need to be by themselves. It's just the two of them, and that it was horrible commentary of what we really had working, because for us and what was going on at that time, the kids were just completely overwhelmed. They had a good time. We were doing, and it was like, no, this becomes a time where they need time alone because too many things have been going on. And that push for others to involve themselves in what our marriage needed, what our house needed, what it looked like, was like, oh, okay, all right. So that push created, okay, so what do you want us to look like? What does it look like for the pastor? And what type of traffic should we have? Who should be around us? Who should be? Immediately, it created this divide and created this space with anybody in so many ways that really affected the pace of not just the youth department, but our actual marriage. Because it was whoa, like, wait, we're fine. What just happened? What's going on? Okay. All right. So, and that adjustment was just, wow. I remember the next youth weeks after that shutdown, everything started going wrong.
In hindsight, looking at that pace adjustment, I would call it a pace adjustment from our leaders that made that call, what could have happened differently to make the two worlds flow together a little better? I mean,
Scheduling.
yes, we did deserve more time alone. Yes, we did need to spend some time with just our children. You know, there was a lot of traffic there. Hindsight is 2020. As I look back on it, I do not agree with the fact that we did see some detrimental. It was some detrimental effects to the young people that we were ministering to. So I think with some adjustments, we could have had the best of both worlds. What do you think about that?
Oh man, scheduling. I think what would have worked, hours, certain days of the week, the house being open, family time that was established outside of the church house or even in the house. I can look back directly and say, hey, more family trips, more dates, just my wife and I, more time with just Dominique, more time with just the sons. I think if I look back on that time period, and I do believe in many ways the intent of not just leadership and those that were concerned was not to send the young adults to the wolves, to send the young people to the wolves. In their desire to get what they wanted to see, it created an opportunity for us to not be able to negotiate and say, hey, How can we address this
Mhm.
without such a horrific issue or problem that's going to be that it created, and that was just scheduling everything.
Mhm.
Scheduling is everything in many ways, and in many areas, it led to all the rest that began to happen. And so I can go like from that date and go to everything that happened, 2007, 8, 9. You can start seeing how the pace of just existed. I think that even that it created an opportunity for us to grow, for us to spend more time together, and the kids, but it also created an opportunity to kind of isolate us so that there could be more attacks. That prior to that, it wasn't happening. It just wasn't there.
And I think that, I mean, it's all a learning experience. We can look back, as I always say, hindsight 2020. We can look back and see some of the things that people try to help us with, our leaders try to help us with, concerned senior members try to help us with, and how we managed that advice. Um, leaves things wide open. As I look back on it, we would have done it a little differently. We would have managed it a little differently, and take that experience and projecting it forward. If we ever are in a situation where we can be of some assistance to a young couple, we'll know how to better manage
Oh,
that.
listen,
We'll know how to better, get in
absolutely.
there and really follow through on the advice that we give, and try to give supports, and do some things so that God could get the glory out of it all.
Yes, yes,
Because
I
that's
believe that.
that's what the intent was, for
Mhm.
God to get the glory out of our marriage, our family, and the ministry that we were embarking on. Because this was basically the foundation of ministry for us.
True. I think not just
It's
ministry in
training.
that area,
Mhm.
training, and just marriage awareness that we didn't see, I didn't see, and I burst to say, I think much of it would have gone even better. I had paid more attention to the advice of Bishop
Mhm.
as we entered the marriage. Make sure you finish school.
Mm,
That would have been closure in an
yes,
area, in a level of accomplishment I would have had.
absolutely.
That would have brought another level of maturity to my preaching, yes. Maturity to an evangelist, yes, but more so as a husband. That area would have been finished. I would have been able to mature and understand the balance I needed with the department. In those early ages, like, you can't come and do ministry 5 days a week
Mhm.
and you have a newlywed. You just got married and you're trying to go to school. No, you can do scheduling twice a week.
Mhm.
The other 3 days you'll be with your wife, have her help you work on your paper
Mhm.
so you can get out of school. I think those are things that, as I look back on it,
Wow.
the inability to schedule, um, and follow the advice of my leader, and those that genuinely concerned, my father and others that were mentors in ministry. I could have projected myself, and myself in a position, in 2007, 2009. I would have had another level of maturity in that moment where I could have adjusted the scheduling or other concerns and issues. But of course, I didn't see it because I was still functioning with deficit,
Mm,
not having that degree, not having a clear understanding how to manage pace and that pace with this tremendous amount of gifts and talents.
mhm.
I did not see, and just be very transparent, a false sense of deliverance.
Mm.
I had had such tremendous success with my testimony. It was like, oh, I'm past deliverance. I'm there. Nothing could hinder me. Nothing could affect me. I'll never fall. This thorn is gone. And in many areas, I got this. Like, oh wow, I'm year 4, I'm year 5. The devil not realizing, like, no, it's
You're never there.
you're never there. You're never there,
Yeah.
and
Always
you
a
never
work
know.
in progress.
Mhm.
Yes, that's good. Always a work in progress. I think,
And so is every marriage.
yes,
in every phase of it.
Yes, individually and as a collective, we're always a work in progress. Let's get right to passion. Passion. In terms of both of our passions, I don't think that we did too bad.
No.
My passion was to work with young people, and I still am very excited and enthusiastic about what I do. I'm working with young people. I'm actually working with an older set of youth and doing exactly what I love to do. And I can see both of the careers marrying. You know, I'm teaching math now. And so I'll also have some aspirations to go on to high school math and teach engineering and things of that nature. So I can see the two careers marrying each other, and it's just where I need to be, what I want to do. And I know that a part of my placement and purpose and positioning is in the field of education. So we didn't do too bad with um, meeting my expectation for passion. How about you?
It was great. I think that it's essential to be able to live one's life in a reflective way, understanding assignment, knowing call and passion. I left Morehouse to be married.
Mhm.
I left to come to Connecticut
Absolutely.
to do ministry in Bridgeport, submitted and serving my father.
Mhm.
I entered into ministry saying, I want to preach for Dr. Floyd Flake.
Yes.
And before I die, I want to be able to preach for Bishop Jakes. I want to be able some way and somehow to be on a stage where I minister before Bishop Hezekiah Walker, who has been my role model and idol as a kid or a teenager since first he came to my house. I want to be able to have a mic and then him see me function in a way, one way or another, that shows significance in ministry and kingdom. So to be able to say those areas were fulfilled and I had it, and I mean, all of what I have now, I cannot. There's no way possible I can suggest that passion, me going for what I was passionate about. I didn't get it. It did not arrive. I experienced it. I'm grateful to God to be able to say what I've seen and happen. And I'm 49.
That's
It's
amazing.
amazing.
Amazing. We made it to this place of passion. How many people don't make it? What
They
would you
don't.
say
They,
to
they
those
don't.
that are pursuing passion but are kind of stuck with, oh, should I pursue my passion or should I go after something that is really going to meet the need?
I think it's very important at this point that we emphasize that within pursuing passion, you can't lose purpose and
Good.
assignment, because
That's right.
yes, you can miss.
Mhm.
You will miss both purpose and passion
Mhm.
if you function blindly in passion. And I think you can be so passionate for something. And for me, I'll never forget this. Jake says, "Be careful when you fight to the top of the mountain, because you may arrive there and realize there's things that you want up there."
Mhm.
And that is one thing I realized. Wow, to be in that moment, to be in that space, and get there and not clearly understand purpose is devastating. And for people that have not that life that lacks passion, oh, it's dangerous. It's just a dangerous place to be, because you lose that drive. And then, of course, that's when the distractions come. That's when the space is created. When a marriage loses its passion, love loses its passion. When relationships lose that passion, you're actually creating space. But if you purpose present, what is the purpose of this relationship? What's the purpose of this marriage? What is the purpose of this woman or this man in life? When you don't have that ever before you, there is space, and other things can come in to distract you and pull you from what you should
Purpose,
be doing and
yes.
purpose, or when you stop going after what you're passionate for and connect to purpose, and you start to settle. It's easier for the bar to just shift, and you look up like, how did I get into this? Like, oh, you lost focus on your purpose, And then of course you're not passionate about what you're doing. Now you're just functioning out of gift. You just, gifts come without repentance. Like, oh yeah, you're able to do this, but is that your purpose? Are you in your right season? Do you love this, or are you doing it out of duty? Or is this utilitarian? Is that obligation? Like, okay, all right, let me do this. Or, okay, I did that, and I did that, I did this. I checked the list off. I did the 9 things you asked. I did the 5 things. You got to be good. Like, okay, that's not going to work because now passion's not there, which leaves that void. And the enemy always finds a way to fill that space, to fill that moment, whether it is David's situation or Judas, where whatever you were doing, you were loving Christ and following him, and somehow the trustee loses the true treasure, which is Christ, and takes the 30 pieces of silver. Like, what in the, how could you possibly sell this out? Because you have lost your purpose. The passion for ministry is gone, and now you have more questions about what Jesus is doing. And how in the world you sit doing it, bringing an alabaster? It's that void. That void is creating questions that shouldn't even be discussed. You're asking Jesus about a woman breaking an alabaster box, and we could have used that. How many people we could have fed? Like, wait. When has Jesus ever had a problem with feeding? When has Jesus ever had an issue? When has Jesus ever about people worshiping him like that? Like, okay, you obviously don't know. You really have lost, understand the purpose of Christ and what you are supposed to be to him as a trustee, as a treasurer. And now because of that focus, the Bible says, and the enemy found a place,
my goodness,
in Judas's heart. And because he lost that passion, the enemy found a way into that love relationship he obviously had. And before you know it, and how we know it's a love relationship, because once he got the 30 pieces of silver, he realizes, I don't want this. They take it back. And how many times has that happened in marriages? That people have gotten away from something to realize, okay, you got it now. Like, you don't want it. Like, oh, you can't give it back.
It didn't fit your purpose.
It didn't fit your purpose. And there Judas is, you've killed yourself. He's got what can I do? And I think that happened in many ways, in many marriages.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that analogy. That is excellent. And that is something that we must keep at the forefront of our minds always. When we are patiently enduring through our love relationship, we got to check in with one another. We have to check in. We got to check in with each other's paces. How does our pace? What's the purpose of our pace? How do they fit together? We got to check in with one another in our progress. What are we doing together collectively? How are we progressing collectively together? How are we progressing individually? Because we're individuals first. So check in with one another. That's where the voids can come in. We're not meeting our goals, or we're not progressing, and there comes the void. So we have to check in. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of our individual goals? What's the purpose? Why did we get together in the first place? We can check back in with each other, and certainly in pursuing our passions.
Yeah, that's good. And you said something that I didn't want to miss on that. You said it creates that void, and I just thought of that. Void is space, and the Bible says, "Give no place to the enemy." So it doesn't mean it's an individual. It doesn't mean it's a situation.
Right.
It could just be space, and that void. Wherever there's void, the Bible says, give no place to the devil. He fills voids. He being the enemy fills voids. I think that's good. Communication, checking in, fills voids.
Yes.
Hey, are you okay? Everything all right? You didn't seem like yourself. Hey, we ain't gone out in a while. We need a date. Are you talking? Everything all right? Intimacy is a little off. Communication's off. I'm picking up a funny vibe. Hey, we spent time for a while. Are you all right? I didn't, I'm going to make sure that those little things actually fill that void. Like, wow, which is really just understanding each other's pace again and knowing what's going on and realizing, hey, I know enough of the pace to know that this is too much space. But that void's good. I'm going to have to remember that for another time. It's good.
So I'm glad that you joined us today. I'm hoping that you just got a little bit out.
A little bit. We're an hour, so you got more than a little bit on today.
You got something out of it.
Yes, listening to the Valentine's weekend. Hey, please, whatever you do, whoever's watching this, do whatever you can. Appreciate what's going on and being shared today, but do not allow this month, this weekend, whatever's going on, to make you feel as though you are not loved. Hear me and hear me
Absolutely.
closely.
Absolutely.
God is love.
God is love.
And for those of you that are married in marriage covenants, amen, regardless of what season you're in, amen, remember the purpose of the marriage that you're in and the expectation that God has on you and the spouse that you have brought you into covenant. You brought your person into covenant with you. Amen. Honor this weekend. Have a great time. And if there's anything that's lacking in you, I promise you, there's a God that will fill that void.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And remember, this patient. Check in with your spouse. Check in